Thanks for checking in on the State of Basketball Podcast, episode 80. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaren Will each and every week, and we are going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I schools in the state of Indiana, because in 49 states,
it's just basketball. So we're hitting the 80 mark.
80.
Or I guess we are at the 80 mark. Will our 100th episode be before the next season starts?
Yes. Yes. Because we do the 11 preseason shows.
Yes.
So that's 11. And we need 9 more shows between April and that point. So like
we gotta remember. Oh yeah.
That's gonna hit for sure.
Surely.
Like even if we take a month off, I think we still hit it.
So I guess we have to start planning what our
100th. Well, I think hopefully our 100th episode isn't like the Butler preview, because then what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, we talk about Butler. We don't want to just be like, hey, it's the 100th episode, and also this. Like, maybe we could throw if it comes
just
into that, do a special episode.
Yeah, we plan it out ahead of time. We'll just have to like get a calendar out and be like, okay, tick. Okay,
Once
this is where.
Close.
Yeah, maybe not even close. Like, let's probably do that now so we know. Like, I don't know
when it'll hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how many guests we get this offseason, because
True.
After our episode next week, we're going to kind of move into guest mode. That's kind of what our offseason content is. So it's a little bit different flavor. So if you're tired of us talking about these 11 teams and you want to hear us talk about maybe a deep dive on one team with a player, coach, fan, that's what the offseason kind of entails for us. But kind of lied in the intro again. Kind of lying the last couple of weeks, because we are not talking about all 11 teams this week.
Ooh, good call.
We're talking about 6, because half of 11 is 5.5, and we're not going to do half of IU Indy and then half of IU Indy on the next episode. So we are going to do a season recap for Ball State, Butler, Evansville, IU, Indiana State, and IU Indy. So we're going to hit the first 6 teams alphabetically, and that's, I guess, what are we going to talk about with our recaps here? Because this is a season recap, right?
Yep. You asking me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll look through. So we did preseason ranking. We listed out preseason rankings. We did our preseason projected based on the metrics, and then our, what we thought was realistic from a schedule. So we'll kind of reflect on that and talk about where the team ended up, kind of in those categories. Then we'll talk about, some of the key games that we called out, give reminders, especially for those in-state matchups or just top wins that teams had. And then at the end, we gave what we thought our goal for the team was in the preseason. So now we will bring that goal or goals up and kind of talk about, did they meet the goals?
And I think that that's something we need to talk about while we're doing it, is like them meeting our goals doesn't necessarily, or them not meeting our goals doesn't necessarily mean that this season wasn't successful.
Yeah, correct.
So those are kind of two different things. They will probably be the same answer. Like, was their season successful? No. Did they meet our goals? No. Most of the time that'll probably be the case, is what I'm assuming. But I don't think that that's just a given.
Yeah, it's not a certainty. Before that, I would like to admire your hat.
If you can see it.
I'm 4.5, 3 feet away from him.
Yeah.
3.5, 4 feet is probably a better way to put that. Away from him, so I can see his hat. And I like it.
It's a State of Basketball hat. It's new to you, new to the merch store.
Kind of new to you.
Yeah, kind of new to me.
You've had it less than a week.
It's such a good hat that the best testimonial we have is our friend who does not wear hats. Like, literally, It's like, I don't own any hats. Never wears them. Thinks he looks goofy in hats. Got one. and liked it. And then his like first grade son tightened it up, put it on, and just kind of stole his hat. And he was like, dude, I never wear hats. Now I finally have a hat and I can't even wear it. Then his wife loosened it up from where his son had it, put it on. I was like, I like this hat. They all like the hat so much, my man had to buy another one. So if you need a recommendation, like this hat was so nice that his family he had to buy another one for his family.
And he's not even a hat guy.
Exactly.
And he liked it. So like that's major selling point. But you can buy that on our merch store that is linked in the description of our episode on YouTube and I guess the audio version, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen. It's also linked in our social media bio. We've got a link tree there. So a link to the merch store there. Everything is made to order. So, expect a few days of lead time to get it produced and then shipped out. Shipping
my hat came
pretty quick
within a week. Like from the time I ordered it, it was less than a week.
Well, here, and I'll even add some raw data to the mix. So our friend ordered a second hat on the 18th, and it shipped on the 19th.
Nice.
And it is currently scheduled to be delivered. Let's check the tracking number.
Just in case you're wondering how.
Not updated. I was just gonna give like a date on the shipment efficiency.
They come pretty quick.
But yeah, it's estimated delivery on Wednesday the 23rd between Wednesday the 23rd and Friday the 25th. So less than a week turnaround.
Yeah.
Granted, that is the hat. That is the single hat. But in general, I'd say 3 to 5 days from order to ship is
yeah, it is good. So I like it. If we've got pretty much anything you could want on there, and if there's something you want and we don't have it, like my mother wanted a women's t-shirt and we realized that was something we missed making our merch, and we threw one up there. So anything you could want. We've got some nice golf polos that we're not modeling, but Jaren's modeling our heavyweight baggy tee.
Yep.
And it's all nice stuff. Like that was a
got
big
several
thing with
questions
us.
about it today.
Really?
People are like, what does "and 49 states" mean?
You're like, how long do you have?
Yeah. And so I had to let them know. So it is an eye catcher for sure.
And that was a big thing for us. We didn't want to make really crappy merch that was just going to be, fall apart. And so it's nice quality, but get yourself some. Check the link in our bio, and help support us. But most importantly, have some nice merch. So let's kind of talk about these 6 teams real quick. We normally power rank every single week. We're not going to power rank, but I do want to just give an update for our listeners and our viewers on where we had each team in the preseason, and then where they ended in our final ranking. So our first preseason ranking to our last postseason ranking. And although I feel like we need to switch 1 and 2 here, because I feel like that's how they were in the preseason. No, I think we had 2 over 1. I believe that's the case, because I got a lot of pushback on it.
Let me go back and look at,
because I pulled the spreadsheet. I apologize for not being prepared. Our unpaid intern did not do their job fully.
Yes, we did have 1 and 2.
Okay, I'll just
switch.
Swap that real quick. So you're the power rankings guy. So why don't you rip through these? Let us know who the preseason 1 through 11 were, and then who the postseason 1 through 11 were.
Well, first, I'd be remiss not to remind everyone of our sponsor, Crow's Nest Coffee Roasters, who so graciously sponsor the power ranking segment. So go check out, order some coffee. Use promo code TSOB for 15% off every order. If you like the coffee so much and need a coffee mug to drink it out of, we have a
collab
coffee mug on our website that has both ours and Crow's Nest Coffee's logo on it. So if you want to support us and them, you can buy coffee, buy a mug to drink the coffee out of. But our preseason power rankings were as follows. We had Indiana at number 1, Purdue at number 2, Purdue Fort Wayne at number 3, Butler was 4th, Notre Dame was 5th, Ball State 6th, 7 was IU Indianapolis, 8 was Valpo, 9 was Southern Indiana, 10 was Indiana State, and 11 was Evansville.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we thought going into the first game of the season.
Before the exhibitions even, right? Or no, this was after the exhibitions.
I think
our justification was kind of like Indiana won their exhibition. It was coin toss. Indiana won their exhibition. Purdue didn't. Okay, we'll just use that as a little bit more data and say Indiana might start above Purdue.
Yep.
Now, were these predictions right? Not
really. Kinda. They're close.
One team finished in the same spot.
Two teams.
Two teams
finished in the same spot that we had them at the preseason. Several of them, moved a spot up or a few spots down.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't it just the one? Isn't it just
5,
Notre Dame?
Oh, I guess Purdue we had.
Yeah, Purdue we had it too. Yeah. So what was our postseason?
Our postseason was I'll go in the inverse because that's fun.
No, too confusing. Start at 1 again. Start at 1 again. Don't switch it up.
I was trying to snake draft it, So 1 was Purdue, 2 was Indiana, 3 was Butler. As a reminder, 1 and 2 we had swapped. Butler preseason we had at 4. 4 was Purdue Fort Wayne. At preseason they were 1. So far our 1 and 2 teams flipped from preseason to postseason, and our 3 and 4 teams flipped from preseason to postseason. Yeah. At number 5, we had Notre Dame. That's where they were preseason, so they held strong in that position. At 6 was Indiana State, who moved up 4 spots. 7 was Valparaiso, who moved up 1 spot. 8 was Ball State, who moved back 2 spots. 9 was Evansville, who moved up 3 spots from the preseason. 10 was IU Indy, who dropped 3 spots from preseason to postseason. And then 11 was Southern Indiana, who moved back 3 spots. I guess 2 spots.
All in all, not too terrible.
From preseason. So, no. I mean, some teams, like we talked about, just didn't click or
had injuries.
Because that was another thing. Valpo, we had, we wanted to put higher, or I think we did put higher because of we weren't sure about Isaiah Stafford's injury, and they ended up outperforming. Didn't even need Stafford. So I want to start with kind of Ball State as we go through this school by school.
Yep, let's do the first 6 in order, alphabetically. So let's let it rip. We can't think of any other way to do this. It breaks our brains. So here we go. Let's start with Ball State. Jaren, why don't you let it rip with Ball State?
Yep. So I guess do we want to do row by row or column by column?
Let's do rows.
Row, then column 1, column 2?
Yes.
Row. Okay. So preseason ranking, right? Remember, we used Torvik as our main source of metrics throughout the season. So preseason, Ball State's Torvik ranking was 252. Postseason, right? We talked about they moved back in our power rankings, for a few different reasons, but their postseason ranking also moved down. They were 272 according to Torvik at the end of the season.
So it dropped 20 spots, not the direction you want to go, obviously.
That is correct. And really the surprising thing to me about this is preseason, based on the metrics, based on Torvik, their projected record and conference ranking was that they would be 14-13 overall, 9-9 in the conference. again, that 14-13 does not reflect the MTE that they played in because those games weren't scheduled, therefore they weren't able to be accounted for in those rankings. And then Torvik had them finishing 7th in the MAC, which, as we talked about several times, would have meant they made the MAC tournament.
Which they missed the previous year.
Yes. And really, where they ended up, 14-17 overall. So same number of wins in the win column, but then the 17 losses, which includes the MTV. That's why that number is different. And then in the conference, they went 7-11, which was good for 9th in the MAC. So just missed the MAC tournament again.
Unfortunately, we thought that they were going to be a shoe-in because of the pieces that they brought in. They did lose a lot, but we liked the pieces that they had coming back, and they were bringing in some pieces that we liked, especially Jerry Hernandez. We thought was going to be a big piece, but always when you're forecasting this, there's just like the guys you think are going to be great coming back or transferring in or freshmen probably aren't the guys, right? So who did we think was going to be good, and then who were actually the most important players on this team?
Yeah, so a few different things, right? They had quite a bit of roster turnover from the previous 2 years. So the key returners they had, Ben Hendricks was a 5th-year guy, had been there through thick and thin. Mickey Pearson Jr. was one of the guys that we thought was, okay, he's going to be the dude, or one of the dudes. Then Mason Jones, all 3 of them were key returners. Then they brought in several transfers, like Jerry Hernandez from Southern Indiana, Joey Hart, who transferred home or back to Indiana from Kentucky. Peyton Sparks returning to Ball State after being dominant his first 2 years, and then having a not so great year at Indiana. Ethan Britton Watts, all were key newcomers that we thought were going to come in and make an impact. A guy that we didn't mention preseason, Fat Hill.
Right.
Dude was their most important player. He averaged 15.8 points a game, which is 3 points higher than the next closest guy. 32 minutes a game, so playing the heavy load, really. I think he had the most minutes out of everyone.
And
by 3 minutes.
Yeah. And looking at that, he's not a guy we mentioned. We didn't have him on our radar. He led the team in minutes, was 3rd in rebounds, and led the team in assists. So you just really, it really is a crapshoot for so much of picking these guys, because, looking at their production previously and then thinking how they'll fit in, the guy you think might start might never see the floor.
Yeah.
So that's a big miss on our part, is not having Fat Hill. And then
even Juanse Gorcito.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He was not even mentioned either.
Yeah, and he was 4th in points, I think 2nd in minutes, and then had, respectable rebounds and assists for a non-ball handling guard. Just a guy that wasn't on our radar, and that happens sometimes. We still had Peyton Sparks, who we said would be a big piece. Right. He was their 2nd in points.
And leading rebounder.
Mickey Pearson Jr., obviously. We knew he'd be an impact. So, biggest wins, looking back on the season, right? We talked about they played in the Gulf Coast Showcase. That was their MTE, and they also played the MAC Sunbelt Challenge. And had 2 in-state matchups that I only wrote the scores down for one of them because they only won one of them. But so biggest wins, right? Anytime they play, there's an in-state matchup, that's automatically going to be a big win in our book. So they did beat Evansville, beat down Evansville really at this time of the season, 80-43.
No kidding.
And then they also had a top 200 win against Eastern Kentucky, 63-61. And then a top 150 win over Kent State, 75-67. So that was a big win, both because it was top 150. Kent State was a really good team. And it was also a return game for Jeremiah Hernandez, going back to where he started his collegiate career. Yep. So that brings us to our season goals, right? Our goal for them was finish top 5 in the MAC and then make the MAC tournament semifinals. And then we also had the goal of seeing Mike Lewis get into the positive win percentage. He was sitting at 500 over his career in the MAC. We wanted to see him, make that swing and have a dominant performance coaching in the MAC. Did they meet their goals? I would say no.
I would say no, and I don't think. I mean, we had Hernandez on in the offseason, and he said that this is a team with experience, which is what we thought. That was aiming to make a run to win the MAC tournament.
Yep.
So if that was their goal, our goal was, to see them make the MAC tournament, finish top 5, make the semifinals of the MAC. They didn't make the tournament. So from our point of view, did they meet the goals that we set for them? No. Would you call this a successful season for Ball State based on what they wanted to achieve?
No.
I wouldn't either.
No.
So unfortunately, another down season for Ball State. Close. I mean, they were close to making the MAC tournament. They were 9th. They just kind of fell apart down the stretch, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But did not see the leap that we wanted to see. So we're going to see, in the next, over the offseason, what Mike Lewis does and see where that leads the Cardinals. So did not meet their goals, according to us. And I'm sure that Mike Lewis would probably tell you the same.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Butler. Butler's a team that plays in the Big East. If you're just catching us now and just coming in and not well versed on this league called the Big East. They started out the season 76th in Torvik, and they finished the season one spot higher, which is actually just a crazy coincidence.
Lower, actually.
Sorry, one spot lower, 77th. So, not too big of a slippage, but they were projected to go 15-15 for the season and go 8-12 in the Big East, according to Torvik. That would make them finish 8th. And we at that time were not buying that. We thought that was underselling this Butler team. We thought that was going to be a miss by Bart Torvik. And what was their actual record? They went 15-20. And they went 6-14 in the Big East. Finished tied for 8th, so that part was correct. But we were way off on there. We thought that they were going to beat Wisconsin. We thought they were going to go 1-1 or in their MTE in Arizona, and then we thought they would go 12-8 in the Big East and go beat a 21-10 team. That didn't exactly pan out. But were we right on who was going to be, a big piece? We talked about Telfort, Ja Telfort, Pierre Brooks, Andre Screen, Finley Bizjack, Bowden Kapke, and Landon Moore as the returners. And then the newcomers were okay, Colby King, Patrick McCaffrey, Jamie Kaiser Jr. are probably going to be the key newcomers. Jamie Kaiser Jr. never saw the floor. He got injured, I think, in the offseason and had to take a red shirt. He's coming back, though. But Colby King, he was the 6th leading scorer. So, decent. We thought he was going to be maybe contending with, being a lead guard.
Yeah, I think at the time we just wasn't sure
what Bizjack was going to do.
Who was going to be the lead guard? Was it going to be Bizjack or was it going to be Colby King, who's a little bit older, a little bit more experienced? And it happened to be Bizjack. Bizjack got the role. I mean, he played almost 10 more minutes a game.
Yeah.
So that's gonna make that impact there.
And the big three: Ja Telfort, 16 minutes per game; Pierre Brooks, 16 points per game; Pierre Brooks, 15.2 points per game; and then Patrick McCaffrey, 11.2 points per game. And then Bizjack was 4th with 10. So the key returners, we were pretty spot on. They didn't have anyone that surprised us. I think one person that we didn't really see being a big player like they were before they got hurt was Augusto Cassia before he got hurt and then left the team, which is a whole nother thing entirely.
Yeah.
So they lost him, and Andre Screen was down at center. A little bit, underwhelming at times. But their biggest wins, they had two big wins, I'd say. Northwestern, they beat Northwestern in their MTE, the Arizona tip-off. They beat them 71-69, and then they beat Mississippi State, who was a 4 seed, I want to say. They were like a 4 or a 5.
Maybe 5.
Mississippi State, they beat them 87-77. Just smoked them in the Arizona MTE, and then they won at DePaul 84-72, which saying DePaul as like a signature win is kind of crazy, but they just didn't have many road wins this year.
Yeah.
That portion did not really work out for them. Like the Big East play was rough. They had some close ones, but they just could not pull them off. So, Jaren, let's talk. We said goals for Butler. Make the NCAA tournament and get above 500 in the Big East. Going 500 in the Big East is incredibly difficult to do.
Yes. Yes.
But go 10-1 in the non-con. So, would you say they hit our goal?
No, not remotely.
No. I mean, just by the numbers, we thought that they were going to we thought that they were going to be 12-8. They were 6-14. We thought that they were going to be 21-10. They were 15-20.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not quite right there. And I mean, was this a successful season? No. I mean, no. But I think that there are pieces that you look at and be like, that'll be good for next year. And we're not going to talk about like next year, but there are things to look at this team like looking at.
Well, we said Jamie Kaiser was going to be a big impact and didn't play, but he's returning, so that opportunity is still there.
Mm-hmm. So if you're a Butler fan, it's not like, okay, we need to get rid of Mata. I think there's still time. I think Mata's a good coach.
He's got an insane transfer and recruitment class.
Yeah.
So
it's not over for Butler, but this year definitely a down disappointment year.
Yeah. Evansville's next.
The Aces of Evansville, and Elliot Crow is in our TikTok chat. So
this one's for you, Elliot.
Yeah, we got the Crow's Nest coffee right there. But this one's for you, Elliot.
And you're wearing an Aces shirt.
I am wearing Evansville. That's very, very perfect. I did that unintentionally. So they play in the Missouri Valley, Evansville, obviously located in Evansville, Indiana. In case you didn't put that one together.
I love this geography lesson.
You know, got to let them know. They started the season 231 in Torvik, and they dropped pretty quick in Torvik, and then kind of clawed their way back up to 257. So they did end lower than they started, and Torvik had them going 12-19 overall and going 7-13 in the Missouri Valley, which would give them 10th, would be 10th place in the Missouri Valley. So now we've got actually some really close numbers, like our closest actual results to the predictions.
Yeah.
But we thought they were going to go 10-21. We thought that was going to be the record for the regular season. They obviously played one game. Well, you know, they obviously play multiple games and potentially in the Arch Madness. But we thought they would go 5-15 in the Missouri Valley. They went 8-12 in the Missouri Valley, so we were wrong there. We were underselling them in the Missouri Valley. Mm-hmm. But their actual record was 11-21. So their regular season record was 11-20. So we were one game off. We were one game off.
Yeah.
And Bart was also one game off, which is like crazy that it was that close, right? So they tied. They finished tied for 8th with Indiana State and Southern Illinois. So they did actually finish better in the league than they were projected to.
Yep.
Which is nice, but it kind of didn't happen the way that we thought it was going to, because the guys we thought were going to be important: Tanner Cuff, Cam Hafner, Josh Hughes. Of course, like if you paid attention to Evansville, those were the big returners coming back. Newcomers, we thought Comer would be important, Turnbull would be important. We threw out Trent Hundley and Raymondo Battle. And then we just mentioned in the freshman section, Gabriel Pizzato.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also
Yeah.
this freshman from Italy named Gabriel Pizzato. I don't know. I've heard he's good.
Yeah.
So who was their leading scorer? It was Tayshaun Comer, narrowly over Gabriel Pizzato, and Pizzato missed a couple of games because of an injury, so he could have, potentially done more in those games. But then, the top 5 guys in production were Comer, Pizzato, Hafner, Turnbull, and Cuff. Then Hughes was next. So there was we nailed it. Other than Pizzato, we nailed who was going to be the most important
For sure.
for this team. That feels good. that felt pretty good.
Yeah.
Biggest wins, not a ton. There were some close ones, but they also got not historically, but it felt like historically beat down in a couple of these. They won at Indiana State 79-74, which is huge. They beat Belmont at Belmont 80-75, and then they won against a pretty good Murray State team 78-74. So our goals, Jaren, were above 500 and finish at least one game below 500, and we the year before, and we wanted them to improve on being one game below 500 in the Missouri Valley, I think it was, or maybe just total because they're one game behind. So did they get to 500? No, not in the league, not overall.
Right.
But based on the projection, they did finish 8th in the Missouri Valley versus 10th.
Yeah.
So would you call this a successful season or not?
I still kind of wouldn't, just because them finishing 8th and they're projected to finish 9th or 10th.
Mm-hmm.
I just think all in all, the Missouri Valley Conference was not as good this year as it typically is.
It was top heavy. Yeah. But
as good in the middle. The middle of the pack wasn't as competitive. It was really top heavy.
It really quickly was one of these two teams is going to win it.
Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with where they ended up in terms of just their conference standings.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I thought it was a lot to build on for the Aces. I thought that Coach Rags did a good job of, game planning and recruiting, and they controlled a lot of the games that they played in.
Yeah,
the Ace didn't win them.
Yeah,
and a lot of that had to do with injuries, whatever. But I'd still say no.
I would agree with you. Especially
there were signs of life, and it's okay, it could have gone. One more game goes your way. Maybe we're having a different conversation, whatever. But
Pizzato doesn't get hurt. Pizzato getting hurt also allowed Tayshaun Comer to kind of emerge. But
yeah,
I think just thinking about it, you kind of have to zoom out just a little bit more to get the full picture, because if you have this year and then you return the guys for next year, maybe it is a successful season then, because it's we could have been better. There were signs of them being good, incredible defensively.
Yeah.
But if those guys come back, I think we change our answer.
Yeah.
But dang near everyone left. And so it's you don't even get to reap the rewards of maybe making improvement. It's just a new year starting over every single time. So Evansville, the 3 teams not meeting goals. Will our 4th team exceed expectations or not? Jaren, who's our next team?
Our next team is Indiana, the Hoosiers, located out of Bloomington, Indiana. They currently play in the Big Ten. I say currently there's any chance that they leave.
That'd be crazy.
Indiana will never leave the Big Ten.
You can take Indiana out of the Big Ten, but you can't take the Big Ten out of Indiana. You can't do either.
It doesn't work. And then, so preseason, their ranking was 30. Postseason, their ranking was 50. So quite a big drop there.
That's significant.
Going into the season, they were projected to go 19-10 overall and 11-9 in the Big Ten, which would have them finishing 6th, but technically second based on just the tie situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously, 19-10, that did not reflect their battle for Atlantis, because those games weren't scheduled out. Kind of similar situation like the previous schools. Actual record, they finished 19-13 and 10-10. So, pretty spot on from the projections, other than the three losses, which several of them came in Atlantis, which wasn't previously impacted or factored. But they finished 9th in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
So one game back from their preseason projection in the Big Ten standings, but 3 spots back. And then just looking at the whole picture, right, we had very high expectations for them. We thought they were going to go 14-6 in the conference. Like I mentioned, they went 10-10. So off by 4 games there. And we thought they'd be 25-6 overall with a potential 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. And that was a big miss on our part.
Hey, man, if they win, they could have won 4 more conference games and it not even be like a 5-point swing. Like,
that's true.
And then they'd be sitting at 23-9. Like, that's not that far off if they had actually capitalized.
And we said they'd go 11-0 in the non-conference, and they went 9-3.
I think I remember us saying, me more specifically, I think I remember saying, if they don't go 11-0 in the non-con, it's a failure. I remember saying it's a failure if they don't go 11-0.
Well, that 11-0 didn't consider Atlantis, though, did it?
Oh yeah, it did, because I said
we said we were gonna
everything else would be a disappointment. It's right there. Like it, because I knew that they played West Virginia first, and I was like, West Virginia's gonna suck probably.
No, they played Louisville first, didn't they?
Louisville first.
Yeah, we thought Louisville would.
Like, Louisville's gonna suck.
And then they happened to be a.
Maybe we didn't think they were gonna suck, but it was like, if you lose to Louisville, you have to play West Virginia, because Gonzaga's obviously gonna beat West Virginia.
Yeah,
and West Virginia's gonna suck. Didn't have to play West Virginia because you lost to Louisville, and Gonzaga also lost to West Virginia. So
so the complete opposite of what we thought would happen in that bracket. But looking at players, kind of the key returners, key newcomers. Key returners were Malik Renew, Mackenzie Mbako, and then Trey Galloway. So we had big miss bias in this category. Maybe not in the stat column, but in the key impact of the team column was Anthony Leal. We did not have him as a key returner. And he ended up making a huge impact on this team.
I mean, they brought in good guards that we thought would.
Yeah. Because our key newcomers were Miles Rice, Cannon Carlisle, Umar Ballo, Luke Goody, and then freshman Bryson Tucker. Actual key players, right? Malik Renew, guy we said was going to be key. He was their leading scorer by 0.3 points. Next followed with 13.3. Next followed by Umar Ballo, who had 13. Kinsey Mbako, 12.2. Miles Rice, 10. Luke Goody, 9. So interesting to see. I didn't realize this, throughout it, that Trey Galloway's scoring averages were as low as they are.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he'd be around the 10 range. He's 8.8, but Bryson Tucker kind of was not as a big of an impact on this team as we thought.
He kind of disappeared down the he was just literally not played down the stretch.
Cannon Carlisle as well had a pretty underwhelming season.
Mm-hmm. Turns out the money didn't work in this case. Just paying for a nice roster. It didn't pay as much as people are paying this offseason, but paid a lot and did not get the results that they wanted from the players, pretty much.
And then their key games that we talked about last season, right? Playing Louisville. Then, they had they started their conference season against Minnesota and then ended against Ohio State. But their biggest wins on the season, it pained me to write this because it was a game that we were like, this is just a cupcake. But South Carolina ended up being one of their biggest wins,
Yeah. Who sucks?
87-71. They were not great. They had some signs of potential a couple times in this season, but realistically, not a great team. And then they beat Providence in Battle for Atlantis 89-73. That was their only win during that MTE. And then they beat Ohio State twice. We thought that they would split with Ohio State, I believe.
Yeah, probably.
And then beat them twice, once in overtime, and then another at home. Beat Michigan State. Game that we thought that they would probably lose.
Yeah.
And they didn't, because it was at the Breslin Center, so that's usually an automatic loss. But won that. And then they split with Purdue, winning the rubber match of the matchup 73-58. That was one thing that we did predict as well. We thought that they would split. Season goals. We had two of them. Make the NCAA tournament, win the Big Ten tournament for the first time ever.
And we said
they did have a single bye in the NCAA tournament.
But
then they lost the first game that they played. Or sorry, in the Big Ten tournament. But then they lost that first game. So they did not win the Big Ten tournament. They probably needed to win the Big Ten tournament to make the NCAA tournament.
They were the third team out.
They would have had to win a game.
Yeah, they were the third team out behind West Virginia.
No, they were the second team out.
No, they were the third team out behind West Virginia and one other team.
I thought Indiana was right behind West Virginia.
Third. I think it was a mid-major team. But they were the third team out, and so they were close to making the tournament. But the goal for this team was not to make the tournament. We said that they could be a 4 seed.
Yes.
Like, that was what our prediction was. So, success?
Absolutely not.
No, not in any stretch of the imagination. I mean,
nope.
The goal was never to, when you assemble this roster, looked at it and be like, yeah, just make the tournament, guys.
This goal was to win the tournament.
Yeah.
Based on the roster. And it did not happen because they didn't make it. Indiana State is next. We got two more.
Yep, two more. Indiana State, located in Terre Haute. You got the Larry Bird Museum down there. You've got the Indiana State club basketball. You got some good intramurals going on down there. Got some good stuff down in Terre Haute. They do play in the Missouri Valley, though. The varsity team, not the intramural team, plays in the Missouri Valley. This was their head coach's first year. He took over after Josh Schertz moved to St. Louis, so Matt Graves took over, and so expectations were kind of like, hey, let's see what happens here, because he's got a lot to replace. They started out in Torvik at 187, and they ended up the season at 196. So moved down, unfortunately, but this was our biggest unknown.
Yeah.
This was our biggest unknown. So Bart Torvik said they would go 16-15 and go 9-11 to finish 9th in the Missouri Valley. We thought that they would go 6-5 in the non-con, and we thought that they would go 9-11 in the Missouri Valley, and finish 15-16 overall. Their actual record was 14-18, and they went 8-12 in the Missouri Valley, tied for 8th with Evansville and Southern Illinois. So also pretty close. I mean, lost one more game, or one fewer game than we thought that they were going to. There's so many ones in a row.
Yeah.
Not the same kind.
Yeah.
Lost 18 games though, because they did lose a game in the conference tournament, and then one of their MTE games was not factored into the prediction. But people that we thought would make an impact: Aaron Gray, Derek Force, and Jaden Daughtry were the returners. We thought they would be important, and then we thought Samaj Teal, Tyron Cook, Johnny Summers, Marcus Harding, Camp Wagner, and Kamani Dowdy would be important. And then They had a couple freshmen. We weren't sure. I mean, you never know with a freshman who's going to be important. Teal was their leading scorer, followed by Daughtry, Gray, and then Camp Wagner, rounding out the top four. Teal was kind of like the star of this team in a way.
Yeah.
He was kind of the flashiest scorer, had almost 17 points per game, kind of the guy that you relied upon. He was the guy that if you needed a bucket, he could get you a bucket, or maybe Jaden Daughtry could get you one and muscle his way in there and get something for you. So those were kind of the two important pieces. Camp Wagner was definitely an important transfer for them, and
especially as the season went on.
His ability to shoot was very, very important for this team, and it just kind of got stronger as the team went on. So we kind of weren't sure, like, if Vorst was gonna be the like starting center or what was gonna happen there. Derek Vorst did get hurt so he only played about half of this season, but their biggest wins this past season, they won against Illinois State 85-76, and they won at Illinois Chicago 88-83, and they won versus Murray State 84-74. They ended up getting the 9 seed they were the 9 seed, not the 8. They were the 9 seed in Arch Madness, and they ended up losing first round by 2. And it was by 1.
That's what we have in the notes.
Yeah, thanks for our intern. They lost by 1, had an opportunity to, had a chance. Would have been so sweet for them to go play Drake in the second round and beat them after Drake beat them in the championship the year before, causing them to miss the NCAA tournament. So our goals were try not to take too much of a step back from last year. Like, obviously we knew they were going to take a step back from last year because their starting 5 transferred out.
And their 6th man.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I think he just was out of eligibility.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
So, like, they lost every piece that was, like, actually important. Not that the people who stayed, like, weren't, but, like, the team was 6 deep. Like, they were a team that ran 6 deep pretty much. We said get to 500, win a game in Arch Madness. They were close. Getting to 500, 14-18, I mean, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
So, like, I think given that this was a rebuilding year, I don't think they met their goals based on what we said. I mean,
correct.
Looking at the facts, they did not meet their goals.
Yeah.
But was this season like a failure?
By no stretch of the imagination,
so.
no.
I think it's not like, oh, wow, look what just happened. But I think it's like, that's kind of about what I expected from the team in the first year.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens next year. So I would say, this is our first team where I'm like, yeah, like, you did a good job. Like, you did a good job. You didn't meet your goals per se, but we didn't really know what to expect, and you did a good job. So good job to Coach Graves and the staff down there. But let's talk about our last team for our season recaps.
For tonight, at least.
Yeah.
IU Indianapolis is the last one. They are located in downtown Indianapolis. So the name didn't give that away. There it is. They are in the Horizon League Conference. And this year it was their first year under first-time Division I head coach Paul Crisaro. He came from the Division III level. Division II.
Division II.
Division
IU
II.
Indy.
At IU Indy. So, preseason ranking, Torvik had them 354.
Because they were like one of the 5 worst teams in the country the year before that.
But at the end of the season, they finished 307. Believe they made it into the top 300 at one point for a week or a couple days there. So biggest jump so far that we've seen, biggest movement so far really that we've seen from preseason to postseason according to the metrics. Their projected record was 9-22 and 4-16 in the Horizon League. They finished, drum roll please, 10-22 and 6-14 in the conference.
I don't know what to bang on.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's all right.
I've learned not to expect much from you.
I wasn't ready, man. I was reading. So I was reading something. I was reading ahead.
Okay,
I
okay.
was like, huh? Literally a drum roll.
Um, but so they did finish with a better record than what was projected of them, according to the metrics. However, our projections for them would be that they would finish 9-11 in the Horizon League and 18-13. We had very high
You wanted
expectations
to
for
believe,
them.
man.
We were firm believers in Crosaro and what he was doing down in Indianapolis. But that's okay. Our bar was high for them. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, and if they met the goals and if the season was a success. So you could still have a successful season and not reach our high bar. But key returners, there were not any. They had no roster remaining. So key newcomers that we had were Jarvis Walker, Ebenezer Ogo, Paul Zelinskis, and then freshmen coming in, Deshaun Good, Ron Rutland III, Drew Kagaris, Keenan Gardner, Luke Peters. Who were the key players? Zelinskis.
Yeah, was not any of the returners.
Yes. Good one. But yes, it was Paul Zelinskis fought with 18 points per game. He played 31 and a half minutes per game. Did not play every game. He missed one, but that is okay. Then we had Jarvis Walker with 15.8. And then Sean Craig, who was not someone that we thought would have as much of an impact as he did. He was their third leading scorer with 12.1. He led the team in rebounds as well and played all 32 games.
It was. This is the one that was obviously the most
Yeah.
impossible to predict. I mean, it was literally just, it could have been any of these guys. Like Deshaun Good, we heard he was pretty good before the season.
That's good.
And it was like, okay, I guess. Like, and I hear Keenan Garner might be all right. So I was like, yeah, you guys are going to like these guys. And it's like, I just have to take what random person tells me and be like, yeah, maybe file that away somewhere. It might be useful.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
definitely a lot
there's
of
also a guy
guesswork.
like Ebenezer who we thought would be a key player, and he played one game.
Yeah.
He did score 4 points in 6 minutes with 2 rebounds. So made an impact for the 6 minutes he was on the court,
dude.
but did not play much otherwise. So key games and biggest wins, right? So they did have to play Xavier and Iowa State on the road in the non-con. We thought that they would, try and keep up with both those teams. They did almost beat Xavier, or at least it was close for a while. And then Iowa State, not as much. But their biggest wins overall, they had a huge win over Green Bay, 84-75. We just are very anti-Green Bay. Youngstown State, 84-79. That was Casaro's homecoming. I don't believe it was his first time back after attending there, but it was
first time back
as a coach.
There,
yes,
coaching against them, right?
So that's definitely a big win for the morale. They also beat Wright State, 91-84. So brings us to our goals: Horizon League tournament quarterfinals and above 500. Those were the goals we had for them. They did not make the quarterfinals. They lost in the first round of the Horizon League Championship, which is the name of the Horizon League tournament. And then above 500, they were not. But I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
They had lofty goals, but
yeah, we were
like, hey, why not?
Their season already ended up being better than the season prior.
It's better than like their last 4 seasons or something.
Yeah, like an outstanding turnaround in terms of
like they hadn't won 6
because of how
games.
low the bar was.
They hadn't won like 6 games in the Horizon in like 4 years. So, the bar was so low, but I think that there was a lot to be proud of.
100%.
And I think like momentum is there for the Jags. And if I'm a Jags fan, I'm excited about the Casaro era.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
didn't meet our goals, but was it a success?
I'd say so.
I agree with you. So
I'd say so.
didn't meet the goals, but a successful season nonetheless. I think there were a couple that they would have liked to have had back, at Purdue Fort Wayne. So close. They were knocking on the door. Northern Kentucky with the wedgie. So many games that just were like so close. Like this team could have been, 8-12, 9-11 or something, if a couple of games just end with them having 2 more points. So
yeah. Well, that is all we have as far as recaps go for this episode. Is there anything else you want to touch on? I guess as a reminder, we will not be live next weekend. We are actually going to be recording next week's episode directly following this.
Yeah, we will be live on TikTok, and
yes,
but it will not be basketball content. So get it's our Masters weekend.
Yeah, honestly, we're going on a golf trip, playing 5 courses in 4 days. So we won't be back and alive enough to give you our joyful commentary on the recaps. So we will post that on we'll still do YouTube. We'll still have video, it just won't be live, and then obviously audio for our listeners. Those will be both posted Monday, returning from that trip. So what is that? I don't know. 28th.
Yeah.
That's what we're going with. So yeah, that's all I had for this episode.
Yeah, I think that's good.
The clock is showing quadruple zeros, so it's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking in on the State of Basketball podcast. We will see you next time. And remember, in 49 states,
it's just basketball.